Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking to you about Gotham by Gaslight, which is actually the 30th film in the DC animated film slate. And although they have been on a steady decline over the past few films, including Batman and Harley Quinn, and films like The Killing Joke, it's been on a really steady decline, but I'm happy to say that Gotham by Gaslight has fully redeemed my hopes in the DC animated franchise.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
So first off, let's go ahead and do a little bit of background on Gotham by Gaslight. It was actually first originally written and sort of illustrated by Brian Augustine and Mike Mignola back in 1989 and was released in comic form. And the story of Gotham by Gaslight is probably one of the most intriguing and interesting Batman stories or even superhero stories that I've ever seen. It's actually set in the late 19th century and pits the world's greatest detective Batman versus Jack the Ripper. And this is probably one of the most intriguing and entertaining comics and even this film itself that I've ever even seen of at least a story as far as Batman or even superheroes in general goes. And although I do have to admit that the film adaptation does take quite a few liberties from the comic, I feel like it really improved in a lot of areas. Things were changed, obviously, especially from other versions that we've known DC to do, from their comic to film adaptations like The Killing Joke, that they did take some liberties and things were changed, but I think it was definitely for the better in a lot of cases, and added a lot of new layers to the film itself, which actually made it a lot more intriguing in more aspects than the comic actually did. So first off, let's go ahead and talk about the voice work of Gotham by Gaslight. Now, Bruce Wayne / Batman is actually voiced by Bruce Greenwood, who was in Gerald's Game and plenty of other films, and he's actually voiced Batman before, several times actually. I've never really found Bruce Greenwood to be my favorite voice actor for Batman. Kevin Conroy is easily the best Batman voice. He's a decent second, I would say, but he does do a pretty good job in this film. Now, Jennifer Carpenter of Dexter fame actually does the voice of Selina Kyle, which she wasn't in the comic, but I think it was a nice addition and sort of layer that they added for this film that I thought was definitely interesting. She did a good job as well, but unfortunately there's just no real standouts as far as the voice acting goes for Gotham by Gaslight, and that's just a little disappointing. However, the action and the story definitely made up for it. Now, as I mentioned, there are quite a significant amount of changes between the comic and the film adaptation. That there are a lot of liberties that this film adaptation took from the comic, but I think that they were all not bad. A lot of it expanded the story and actually made the world feel a lot bigger and feel a lot more involved. What I mean by that is there are a lot of secondary characters or even other villains that are featured in Batman universe that show up or make some form of appearance in Gotham by Gaslight. Not only Selina Kyle, Catwoman, but also including Harvey Dent, Hugo Strange, Poison Ivy, and there are even plenty of Easter eggs, including 3 little orphan kids that are running around Gotham City, and we meet them a couple of times. But what's really interesting is the Easter egg of their names, which are Dickie, Jason, and Tim, which are all Robin names, former Robin names or Robin that have been with Batman, which I thought was a really great Easter egg and actually a lot of fun, especially if you're not really paying attention. I actually noticed that one of them was Jason and the other one was Tim, and then it just dawned on me that, that they put this little Easter egg in there. And I thought it was a cool little thing that they did add into the film. Now, as far as what I would call the big change of the comic adaptation to the film adaptation, I actually kind of liked it. In the comic version, sort of this old family friend of the Waynes is the one that ends up being Jack the Ripper that was in London and ends up coming to Gotham City. In this film adaptation, I'm not going to tell you who is Jack the Ripper, but I felt like it was a lot more intriguing that they didn't make it this random character that honestly we've never heard of before. I like that it had a little bit more of a connection to what we know as Batman today versus just some random character that does have a connection to the Waynes, but it was just a lot more intriguing in the way that it was presented. Although I do have to admit, I think it could have been presented in a better way and even expanded upon. I probably wouldn't have gone with the choice that they would have chosen, but the backstory as to who ends up being Jack the Ripper was definitely intriguing, and it was definitely a fun adventure and even like that detective story of trying to figure out who it is, and you feel like you're along with Batman trying to figure out who's killing these women all around Gotham City in the fashion of Jack the Ripper, and actually who Jack the Ripper is. It's actually really a lot of fun, and I love detective stories and like whodunit solving things. So that definitely tapped in for me, and I just really enjoyed watching Gotham by Gaslight for that reason and story aspect alone. Definitely feel like it was a positive change, although there could have been little nitpicks here and there. I really don't have a whole lot of complaints actually for Gotham by Gaslight, other than going through and nitpicking things. I really just don't have any bad things to say about Gotham by Gaslight. There are little things that I probably would have changed or things that I wouldn't say are my favorite aspect about the movie, but I definitely think it's a fun adventure, and I really, really liked the world that this film is set in. I would really like to see a little bit more, a sequel to this movie, or even the comic. I think it's a fantastic sort of setting. It really brings a lot more to the character, the world itself. It brings a whole new dynamic to Batman having to rely on his gadgets or how things work. There's a lot of interesting things that could be expanded upon in this version of Batman. And I think it would even be better to expand upon it, maybe not necessarily better, but very interesting to expand upon it if it were in sort of an Arkham style game, or even if they decided to do a full animated sort of series or anything like that of the entire Justice League. I would really love to see how like Flash would interact sort of in this type of 19th century world. Superman would be definitely very interesting. Obviously, I think you would have to scale back a lot of his powers. Aquaman, I'm not sure how that would work. Wonder Woman, I think she fits very well. I mean, she fit very well in the World War II setting. If we put her back even further, because she's basically ancient, I think that would be really interesting. Just seeing the entire Justice League having to sort of work and communicate and build, and maybe even if we didn't expand all the way to the Justice League, we got to build in some Robin stuff, a little bit more with the other villains of the franchise of Batman, I think would be very interesting. I'd be more than happy to watch it or even play a game version of it. I think that would definitely be something worth developing. Overall, I would definitely have to say that I really liked Gotham by Gaslight. It was probably one of the best DC animated films in the past few years. Definitely not the best, I would have to say. I have plenty of other ones that I like a little bit more, but it's definitely a return to form for the DC animated film universe. And as I mentioned, I would definitely like to see an expanded version, a sequel to this film. A lot more information would be really, really nice. A lot more adventures with this version of Batman I would really be intrigued about, because this movie definitely surprised me with the style, the animation, the action, had a lot of really good, interesting things going for it. But there were just little nitpicky things here and there. The voice casting wasn't that great. So it's very much up and down in that aspect, but there are a lot more pros than cons. And for that reason, I have to give Batman Gotham by Gaslight a B+. So guys, those are my thoughts on Batman Gotham by Gaslight. It is now available on digital, and it'll also be available on physical media as of February 6th. So make sure you check it out. If you have actually seen it, be sure to let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section down below. But other than that, that's all I have for now. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.